You have a quorum, Madam President.
Excellent. Next up, may I have a motion for approval of today's agenda?
This is Jennifer. I'll make the motion to approve today's agenda.
This is Audrey. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, we have Mr. Hill for the superintendent report.
All right, well, first, let me welcome our new board members, Ms. Thomas, Ms. Mobley, and Ms. McDonald. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Right, thank you. Great. So the first item I want to discuss briefly is the presentation to the Charter School Review Board. Last Wednesday, Dr. Marks and I presented to the Charter School Review Board. Our principals and Dr. Mullins were in attendance as well. We were given 15 minutes to talk about the Charter School Review Board's decision regarding whether to renew our charter beginning school year 26-27. The law directs the Charter School Review Board to either approve or not approve a remote charter academy. Either you get 5 years or you don't get any years. So my primary message was that since 21-22, we've seen significant improvement across our school on a range of metrics. I have included the presentation for your review. I also talked about the need to address some of the areas of improvement, particularly with regards to math and the need to ensure that our kids are prepared for Math 1 at the high school level prior to them entering high school, in particular, focus on middle grades math. There were a few questions asked of us. One was, what math curriculum are we using? What are some of our strategies to improve math? A second question was, what are the number of administrative withdrawals? And as I recall, a third question was regarding how do we engage our students? How do we keep them engaged in a virtual environment? So I've provided an answer in writing, regarding the number of withdrawals. During the presentation, we talked about some of the strategies concerning math, as well as our strategies for engagement. My next step is to actually provide the Charter School Review Board a more in-depth answer, regarding our math strategies, to talk to them about where we are and where we're going and how we're going to get there. I've asked our principals to summarize for each of their respective grade bands the specific steps that we are taking to improve math, and I will submit that information hopefully within the next couple of days. Dr. Marks talked about the role of the board, with regards to using NC STAR to oversee the continuous improvement process. So, Dr. Marks, if you want to make any comments about your presentation and your observation, please do so.
Sure. Big picture, I was just highlighting how, for the new board members, you may not know, my day job, I do education policy research, primarily focused on the state supports to low performing schools. And so spend a lot of time learning about both talking to educators and at the field in general, like what works and what makes a difference for school transformation. I just highlighted the fact that, NCCA is doing all the things. They're really focusing on data-driven instruction, aligned curriculum, high-quality educators. So I just wanted to point that out to the board. And I think those were my main points. I did want to, I don't know, Mr. Hill, if you were just commenting on the questions that we had to respond to, but I did find it interesting that there's more than one question about how we counted kids present. Like, so the idea of like having your camera on, did you have to do work? So there was a little bit of like digging into that. I just remember that being one of the board members' questions.
Yes, that's a very, very good point. So, with regards to Dr. Mark's comments, you'll notice on today's agenda that I've asked each of our principals to present their school improvement plan within the NC STAR system for this school year. We're required by law to ask our board for approval of the school improvement plan. Last month, Dr. Howard presented the district's school improvement plan. So I'm not asking him to present this evening, but I want him to be available if you have any questions. And I've asked the principals to again to present on the specific school improvement plan, and their presentation in many ways will address some of the questions that were asked by the Charter School Review Board as well. So any questions regarding the Charter School Review Board? One thing I will add is I assume we will be given an answer in January or February regarding the Charter School Review Board's decision to approve or not approve our request for a 5-year renewal.
I just wanted to say, thank you, Mr. Hill and Dr. Marks for leading that discussion and representing us. It sounds like there were some really insightful questions that were asked, and looking forward to providing any additional detail that may be asked. So thank you again.
Dr. Martin McCoy, I was having full circle moments of meeting you and Mr. Hill for the first time in that boardroom. So
Exactly. I do remember.
Several careers ago, so that was neat.
Yeah.
Does anybody else
Great.
have any questions about the presentation or the logistics of the charter renewal process?
Just a quick question for you, Mr. Hill. I noted that you said there were some follow-ups that you were going to provide regarding our math curriculum. How does that work? Do they give you a time to submit additional information? How kind of next steps? How does that work?
So I received an email from the Office of Charter Schools regarding the question for which I did not have a specific answer, which was, how many kids have been administratively withdrawn from your school. The questions regarding math and engagement, we provided an answer. I simply want to follow up and make sure they have a more robust, clear answer, because we had 15 minutes, and you can't really give them, I guess, a very nuanced, differentiated answer regarding what we're trying to do concerning K-5, 6, 8, and 9, 12. And I having sat at that table before, I know sometimes you may have a question, or you don't even know that you have a question, but someone can provide some clarity on an issue that someone else may have raised. And so I don't want to provide a lengthy answer, but I just want them to understand that, yeah, we are truly celebrating our success, but here are some areas where we're continuing to grow, and we've made some specific strides as far as inputs to improve math.
Dr. Hill, Dr. Mark, I'm a new member, but I had the opportunity to watch the presentation live. Miss Daniels has shared the link, so I thought it was great. I'm just curious, when you're presenting back the information, are we able to just answer just the questions or add more information on overall presentation? Um,
Yeah,
Curious.
yes and yes. So, but I guess the idea is to try to be strategic and direct them to what you want the key takeaway to be. So we've provided information over the last year of a whole range of topics. And it would be interesting to understand how much of that information each of the Charter School Review Board members has actually received and has understood. But a lot of times it seems as though the last thing that you heard is what you remember.
Yeah, so the reason, sorry for if I'm talking out of just, I'm just trying to express my observations. I thought that if we had the opportunity, maybe we could add the positives and the vision and the mission of the school as well. I believe, like you said, you remember only the last point, and even though you provided overall rest of the information, I just happened to watch 7 hours of it. I started from 12 o'clock and it kind of this thing. So I just thought maybe, I've seen other people add some more about those things. So maybe we also have to talk a lot about our positives. Just my 2 cents about you probably provided already, but sometimes just to remind people was my only 2 comments, but it was a great presentation. I thought we had a lot of positives, of what we're bringing to the table. So
Ms. Thomas, yeah, I think that's a great point. We were noting afterwards that it was almost like two types of presentations. We went in with data, which is usually what the state board wants, but a lot of people came in with narrative and stories and single student highlights. And the board definitely liked that. I think it was, I don't want to speak for Mr. Hill, but like a little bit of a learning lesson. I think next time we could weave that in, just because to your point, there are awesome stories, but our data is what it is and it's trending in the right direction. But I think that's a great observation and I'm in agreement with you.
I noticed that as well, that there were a lot of individual stories, school stories, and I felt that disconnect. Because I as well watched it. It was very educational. So I enjoyed learning. But as well, I felt that, for lack of better words, I felt that there was a disconnect between the actual day-to-day process, the students, and the data. And we presented one and not the other. And it would be awesome to add the other. It would be awesome for, I would love to go around and visit with each of the schools, from the elementary up to the high school, and just actually be there to see the students engage with one another. And I think that engagement and that connection between the board and the principals, the school, the staff, I think that's something that's important and necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Ratcliffe. I'm one of those people that oddly likes to watch state board meetings too. So I was appointed that role in my work. So at staff meetings, I report on everything I watched at the state board. All right. Does anybody else have anything on this issue? Okay, excellent. Next, it's still on you, Mr. Hill, sorry.
Yes, ma'am. So, one of the takeaways is we are not the only school of choice seeking the Charter School Review Board's approval. So in addition to the North Carolina Virtual Academy, Pine Springs Preparatory, and the North Carolina Connections Academy, which have all been approved to run statewide virtual charters. There are other charters competing for the interests of parents and families who are enrolling their children in charter schools. So in this past July, the board approved the contracting with E&V, a strategic communications company that is working with us to build out our brand, to increase awareness, and to help us to improve enrollment. So E&V came forward with a proposal that was targeted with regards to doing digital campaigns in specific markets, building on other strategies like becoming key leaders in this space, with regards to different people in our school speaking to various groups, just doing different types of awareness and advertising. I asked E&V to make a recommendation on how we can increase the frequency of our digital ads to expand it to not just a targeted group, but to all parents across the state who have school-aged children and may be interested in enrolling in the Cyber Academy. And I asked them to give me a recommendation for the frequency of an ad campaign. They recommended that for that type of campaign, you need to have a frequency of 8. And by frequency, they're describing the number of times someone would need to see your ad, your advertisement across social media during that campaign. So from November to the end of April, if the board approves my recommendation, the folks we're targeting would see our various digital ads, various campaigns 8 times. And the reality is that we are competing against other statewide virtual schools that have a significant backing, powered by K-12 Stride, powered by Pearson. So I'm asking the board to approve an amendment of the contract to an additional $235,000 and authorize me to work with E&V to not only use our current digital assets, but continue to build additional assets to be able to market beginning as soon as this week through April. In talking to the E&V team, we would freeze or pause advertisement at some point in December, because of the significant number of advertisement related to the holidays, and then restart the campaign in January and go through the end of April. In the past, we emphasized our advertisement in the kind of early to late spring, but this year we want to start much earlier, because there are families that are beginning now, if they haven't already done so, to think about where they want to enroll their children next school year 26-27. Many of our competitors have front-loaded their campaign and enrollment process to focus on January, February, and March. And so we want to be part of the messaging that parents who are looking to enroll their children in a virtual school will hear, during the January, February, March, and April timeline. So my request is for you to approve a $235,000 contract increase with ENV. Dr. Mullins and I have talked about the current budget, and I'll ask him to address that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. So the original budget called for the board approved $500,000 for marketing and promotion. And with this increase, we would only need to increase that line item by about $100,000 because the board had already approved the 500,000, and with the initial contract of 200,000 plus, and then the additional that Mr. Hill's requesting, it still would just put us just over 500,000. But we've done some other marketing in addition to ENV. We've done some niche and a few other things. So we would need to increase our budget line item by about $100,000. And right now we're at this year's budget, we're at a net surplus of just over 450,000. So even with that additional amount, we would still be over $300,000 in the net when it comes to revenue versus expenditures.
I just have one question. That sounds great. Curious as to whether or not ENV provided metrics on that investment in terms of the increase, what that may look like. And on the back end, do we have, or do they have a mechanism that would show us that the virtual or the digital ads contributed to their awareness or even their enrollment in the school?
So yes, ma'am, we worked with ENV to build a landing page that would allow us to capture the number of people who are coming to our website and specifically going to the enrollment page. And secondly, ENV developed a dashboard that shows a number of KPIs related to the inputs, around impressions and other market-based marketing type of specifics. And the request that I made to them was tell me the number or tell me the frequency that we need to focus on or try to aspire to. And they produced a budget related to getting us to that frequency number across a specific time period. But I need to circle back with them, with regards to how the dashboard will be updated, if at all, because we did some work with them in August. I think we did a short campaign from August to sometime in September that we're using as a template, as a model. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. I just asked because if it's successful, which it probably will be, it'd be good to have a benchmark. And then later on, even if we decide to do it again, we can play off of what's been done already,
And to your point, Ms. McDonald, we had in the past, Dr. Mullins, correct me if I've got this number wrong, but I thought we had talked about for the number of people who begin the enrollment process, about 35% end up becoming enrolled students.
That's correct.
So looking at that 35%, what I was thinking could be a great addition to their dashboard is the number of people who land on the page, and then we could see of landers on that page, what percentage begin the enrollment process. And from there, if 35% of those then enroll, is this, maybe this needs to be increased to get to our enrollment numbers or something like that. But it kind of starts to help us get to those behavioral metrics as well as just kind of the overall impressions, et cetera. Specifically because I'm thinking about it like this, Mr. Hill, a lot of agencies will report on impressions, and obviously that's very, very important. But we also want to kind of close the loop on how many of those impressions then turn into enrollments so that we know, hey, if we have 300 enrollments from this 230,000 expense, then conceivably you could say, well, then for 500, we would want to see 600 enrollments or whatever those numbers extrapolate to. But I think this is the first time we've kind of increased and changed our timeline as well. So we could look and say, how many enrollments does that actually end up being at this time of year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Hill, I don't see that under, can we vote on that now?
Yes, ma'am. Just I'll ask you to ask for a motion to increase the ENV contract by 235,000. Well, up to 235,000. It doesn't have to be 235,000 specifically.
Okay. Super. All right. May I ask for a motion to approve an increase to the ENV contract amendment for an amount up to 235,000?
This is Audrey Martin McCoy, so moved.
This is DI second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Great. Okay, next up we have Academic Excellence Committee, which is me, and I will pass it over again to Mr. Hill.
All right. Let me open this item. As I mentioned, that one of the conversations at the Charter School Review Board focused on engagement and trying to figure out the balance between structure and flexibility. Several years ago, the board adopted a tiered attendance system. In effect, it grants flexibility to students who have demonstrated academic performance above a certain level. So if the student has an 80 or higher in a specific course, or passed EO end of grade or end of course test, then the student could skip attending live lessons. As way of background, several years ago, we moved primarily to synchronous education, meaning we wanted kids to attend live lessons as much as possible, as opposed to simply reviewing a recording or interacting with a curriculum where there is not a teacher. But we also receive feedback from parents who and kids who want that earned flexibility. So for grades 6-12, we implemented the system 80 or higher, or pass, or if you pass the EOG or EOC. What we are proposing is that we raise the bar so that a student who had an 85 or higher has the right to skip live lessons. If you have lower than that grade, then the expectation is that you will attend live lesson. The bottom line is, for many students, probably most students, the structured learning is the best route. But there are kids who are quite motivated and don't necessarily need to attend a live lesson. But I think what you will find is that many of those students decide to attend anyway, because it helps them to hear the teacher provide lecture notes, and you can hear the engagement and hear the questions from other students. So what you have is in front of you is a marked up version of the relevant parts of the student handbook. Section 3.1, it shows the number 80 marked out in 85 included for full flexibility and regarding traditional, if a student had an 84 or below, then that student would be defined as a part of the traditional tier. Another component or feature that we discussed is whether we should require that one keeps his or her camera on during attendance at live lessons. We debated this issue multiple times and have come to the conclusion that in this space and at the North Carolina Cyber Academy, we want to require that you have your camera on. Once you move on to the next level, be that to college or the world of work, and you're in a digital space, you're going to be required to have your camera on at if not all the time, then a significant amount of time. And so we want to prepare students, as they matriculate to the next phase of their life. The principals are here to give you any specific feedback of if you have questions regarding our proposal, and they could also let you know that we've experimented with the requirement or the requirement of holding or having cameras on in different components of the school week. So any questions from anyone?
I would like to hear from the principals in terms of what the results of that experimentation were, because I do remember quite a bit of our discussion previously about whether or not cameras should be on or off. And it's nice that now it sounds like we have a little more data to help inform, evidence to inform our conclusion. So if any of the principals would like to address.
I can speak for middle school that, and first of all, good evening. We started at the beginning of the school year, and I believe that high school did the same, where we required the cameras the first 15 days of school. That was eye-opening to see the engagement and the students actually participating in class and being held accountable. So after that first 15 days where we said that it was mandatory because it's orientation period, we're trying to get things going for the school year, we started to see it drastically drop off with regard to the number of cameras on. And that in turn leads to the engagement dropping off. And so we are very excited about the possibility of requiring it as a district requirement. And I know Dr. Vecchione has more to say with his goals for next semester.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, same thing for the high school. I think that we just feel that in the first 2 weeks of school, when we were requiring cameras to be on, that the engagement was heavily increased. I think my camera is off, isn't it? Are you enjoying that? That's exactly my point, is that listening to me speak through a black box is the same kind of problems that we see in this school when 80% of the students have their camera on or off. But when they turn their cameras on, the engagement, the body language, the eye contact, obviously, there is no compelling reason for 90% of our students to have their camera off. I believe in our students, we have just incredible kids. I believe that when we raise the bar and we set our expectations high, they rise to that. And I did that on purpose to have my camera off because a few of my teachers told me the story that they did that in class, and all the kids started complaining about they couldn't see Miss Perkins or Mr. Klein or whoever the teacher was, and they didn't like that. And it was a lesson that a tangible lesson that they experienced. And when the teachers explained to them, that's how they feel when they speak to a black box and they try to engage with that black box, what the difference is. And so I just see no reason, absolutely zero reason not to have our cameras on. As Mr. Hill alluded to, we live in the real world, but we operate in the virtual world. And we have responsibility here at this school to do more than just teach math and science and reading and all the other great classes that we teach. We have the responsibility to teach social interaction. And, I just think that you just can't do it the way I started out this conversation. So, we certainly would appreciate your support. And I'll just give one example, and I have more than one. But I remember in the first 2 weeks of school when we required to have cameras on, I received an email from several parents, but one parent specifically said, is there any way you could require this all year long? Because I just don't see why the kids don't have their cameras on, and I don't see why my child doesn't have her camera on. There is no excuse, was what that father said. And so there's not a teacher in my school that would tell you that engagement went down when cameras went on.
I totally agree that the camera should be on. You guys are right on point. I work at a school, it's not virtual, but I remember during COVID and the engagement, we had to do this sort of thing during COVID. The grades dropped, the engagement, the social skills dropped. And when they attended school all over again, all of that stuff had to be retaught. So I'm totally in agreement with that. It's a great idea for that.
Let me ask and offer a counterpoint a little bit. I am a tad concerned about privacy concerns. That's one reason I could think to keep maybe not cameras off, but I was thinking about the idea of only the teacher can see the students and the other students can't see. Do we have an ability to do that so that we don't have students looking at other students and their homes and their private area, their where they live and their siblings and whomever else might be in the background?
Yes, ma'am. So we do have where on our class on Zoom where the teacher is only able to see the student. And that's what was required. That's why we required it, because we knew that it wasn't something that was going to force them to be seen by the other students. We do like when they are seen with the other students because it helps with the engagement in our breakout rooms. However, that is something that we definitely have in place to also support those students who, may have some anxiety about being on camera. I know for me with the middle school age group and adolescents, that can be a huge thing.
Thank you.
And to add to that, I was able to, as a counselor, I was able to pinpoint some students just by being online with the camera on, being able to pinpoint some students' needs in the household that I probably wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. I mean, needs that needed to be met so the student can perform well in school. So that's one other good thing too.
Yeah, and I don't want to mislead anyone on this call. That D is not going to be heavily promoted at the high school. We have that as an ace in the sleeve, but that is the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. And at the elementary level, we've had our cameras on for years. And that's been something just as instructionally, our students need to interact, they hold up their boards. And it's because we have the virtual backgrounds that helps with the privacy concerns when that comes up, because that just it mitigates that. And when there are unique circumstances, we are able to address that. But it has improved our engagement. It allows us to really make sure where students' eyes are. Our teachers do things, we can do quick polls with our hands. Our kids don't have to be looking at their keyboards we're doing other things, and it really helps. Our teachers are eyes on me. We should see your screens and things like that. And it really has increased our engagement. Our lessons are very active and interactive with us. So, and those were concerns that we had and that we shared. And but we've noticed that they are very, they haven't materialized as much as we thought they may.
Great. And I'll call the board's attention to the bottom of page 2. I was happy to see that it does call out specifically that IEP and 504 plans can be used in conjunction with this to help individual students who may have particular needs. So if any, parents of students with particular needs might be listening to this live stream, then that's something to also know that the IEP and 504 is there if as needed, which would obviously be the exception, but it is important, and I'm happy to note that it's here.
Yeah, Ms. Thomas has raised her hand.
Yes, I have a quick question. We're talking about engagement, and I absolutely agree with the need for cameras turning on an engagement relationship. Earlier, Dr. Hill shared, I guess this was also one of the questions that came during the school board review about if there are students that are at, how many students were administratively, if they weren't able to do the attendance and they were sent over. So have we done any statistics about whether when we gave them the exception of doing virtually not having to be in the classes, have we be able to do any relationship of what type of students have dropped in engagement? Are they the ones that are attending synchronously versus offline? Is there any? I'm just curious to see if there is any studies or metrics done.
Well, we definitely have data with regards to student performance on the end of year exams and compared to the number of absences. And so there's a direct correlation, between performance and attendance on or a task on attendance. But it's one of those issues of, you can actually attend, quote unquote, but not be engaged. In this space, you can log on and not actually engage. So the cameras on is one strategy. Another is just figuring out how do you measure engagement in a way that is consistent across each classroom. So maybe the completion of work assignments. To Micah's point, we have these various technology tools where you can do a survey or do a poll and ask kids to respond. But let us look in our data to see if we have specific data points, concerning tiers and performance. I recall us looking at that data sometime in the not too distant past, but I think to your point, once you make these types of changes, it's good to establish a baseline against which you can then measure progress.
Yeah. Yeah, just because then it will help us say, hey, maybe cameras is not the only strategy. Maybe we can add other strategies to see how we can reduce the number of the tiering or the absences or performance related issues. Yeah, thank you for that.
One question that I had about going back to the policy on page 2, when we are talking about the third bullet with the cameras on, and we had some concerns about background and things of that sort, will having the background be part of the policy that they have to use the the standard North Carolina Cyber Academy background. Is that something that's being considered with cameras on, or?
That's a good question. I will ask the principals to address as a practical matter how your students implement backgrounds. But I know, so we have a series of standard backgrounds, but during different times of the year or during different classes, kids can be quite creative. And as I understand, we've allowed kids to be creative with their backgrounds, of course, within parameters. So, principals, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, just to keep in mind that obviously I think individuality is important, right? So to Mr. Hill's point, if it's near the Super Bowl and the Patriots are in it, some students might have Patriots backgrounds. And
Oh, wow. That's
well,
unfortunate.
I mean, look at the record this year. That stands for itself. But anyway, let's not digress. The other thing is just as a reminder that the teachers are in complete control of these rooms. Okay. So at any time, I can shut your camera off. I can turn your mic off. I can, so if something inappropriate were there, teachers do have control and they're well versed in the use of the system. So I feel very confident in my teachers and that they do what's right and they monitor, obviously, but at the same time allow students to, celebrate some of their individuality. But like Mr. Hill says, even, on given months, if it's a specific focus in a month, if it's whatever type of month it is, the district will provide us with backgrounds that we can access for that specific month if we want to celebrate the month's focus. So there's no shortage of backgrounds for the students to use. And like I said, teachers have complete control. So if there were concern, they can temporarily shut someone's camera off.
Mhm. Would you, I guess as a follow-up to that, would you just want to have something written in the policy that just talks about backgrounds in general? Yeah,
Yes.
that
Okay.
might be something worth considering. I really like that idea of the individual expression, but still having the teacher being able to control what goes on in those rooms. So thank you.
My only note that I want to make, I completely support and understand the notion behind it. One thing that we should be cognizant of as we endeavor to increase enrollment is that with the increased competition of other schools, we should be aware of what they are requiring or not requiring and how the day looks for students and be able to make the case for why these particular rules will actually enhance, your child's education and social development and really be able to talk about why and how intentional we are with each of these policies so that they understand like we've done this for years and years. We didn't just start this year and are still testing on your student. We've done this for years and years and years, and we know what works, and this is why, and be able to make that case during the consideration process. So on our website or in our literature somewhere.
So, board members, this item is listed as a discussion, and of course, it's your prerogative to pass it this evening or for us to come back in maybe in a special called meeting in December. Our hope is to implement this beginning next semester and communicate it to our parents and to our stakeholders and to Ms. DeRay's point, really explain what we're doing and why this is the North Carolina Cyber Academy way. We're going to be competing against other folks in this space, and we have to differentiate ourselves and appreciate that we believe that these approaches will increase the quality and the rigor of your experience at our school.
I would like to say too, and as we're thinking about the policy for the background, it may be something that we can put in for a policy if a student have some type of social anxiety to being on camera. And if it's written in the 504 IEP, then that should be a case too, to not have to have them to do it. Just in case they may have some type of social anxiety or some type of complex about that, that might be something that can be written in. Maybe, just a suggestion.
I've got means absolutely nothing, but just a little 2 cents here. As a parent of senior class president, she came out of her shell because of the cameras. She didn't like to have the camera on during her freshman year, but she did. I sort of encouraged her to do that, and she did. And I made sure that her background was good. You know, she doesn't like to have the NCCA background that we have. She likes to have her stuff. And so now that's something that she pays attention to when she goes online as to what is behind her, what's going on. But her sophomore year just blossomed. And the next thing I know, it's running for president sophomore year, running for president junior year, and getting president her senior year. So I will say for her, she blossomed and came out of her cocoon. Now, that's not all people. I work with several students that have IEPs, but for her, that worked.
And being a new board member, one thing comes to mind, and it's probably a lot I don't know, for one, but I'm thinking or asking myself the question around, could this not necessarily be a policy, but a guideline, and highly encouraged, and back to what Ms. D. Ray's comments were about, certainly integrating it into the material to communicate around this being the culture of, NCCA in terms of engagement being enhanced because of these things, not just the camera on, but other things. I just wonder if we have a place for guidelines that could be followed, and with the principals and the teachers that are the ones that are in control of that environment, for them to operate in that regard. I'm just curious about why why it would need to be a policy versus a lower level kind of a tier of guidelines, or something else that you guys may call it. Again, new, so I don't know.
One discussion is, frankly, what are the consequences of someone not having a camera on? So when you're in such a diverse setting, how do you incentivize, and so I think the principals have looked at those various approaches. I know that at the elementary, for example, requiring it is, to Ms. Mobley's perspective, a way to frankly ensure that we're doing our due diligence, and we're able to know that the child is attending, that the child is doing his or her own work. Um, at the high school, as I recall, in order to be a member of the SGA and to be a student leader, you need to model this behavior. And as Ms. Fleming said, you notice throughout the year some of the challenges of folks not being on camera. Therefore, at the beginning of the year, you try to establish the culture. So we're leaning in to establish that culture, but there are often times when you have to provide guardrails.
Mhm.
We are a school of choice who who's helping folks who want to school their children at home. We're not a homeschool entity, for example, and so when you are a public school, people expect you to establish certain parameters and guardrails, and so we've been discussing uh, just ways along this continuum to push this culture, and so we've
Yeah.
kind of gotten to this point of this may be the approach that we should take. Mhm.
So then you hit on a key word too, not to belabor it, but the consequences for those who don't comply. Has that been thought through? If it's 3 times or 5 times and they're refusing, what are the disciplinary actions? Is there a process to follow the policy is really kind of what my question is.
And what we have fallen to is this should be part of your grade. It should be reflected in your performance. And so I think, as the principal mentioned earlier, we're not only here to help you to grow academically, but we're here to help you to grow socially and emotionally. And we established that up front, that if you come to this school, then here are some of the clear guidelines and expectations. Well, not just guidelines and expectations, but requirements.
Yeah.
The legislature has directed this school, along with other virtual charter schools, to define the criteria that would make someone successful in this setting. And so we believe that requiring the attendance for certain students to attend live lessons and having your cameras on for this school would be one of those criteria for success.
Okay, that helps.
I also wanted to just add, particularly for our newer board members, we've had quite a bit of discussion, and if I'm not mistaken, as Mr. Hill had referred to, I think that there is some data that we may have had when we first established this practice as a guideline. So I think that we've kind of taken some time to kind of see how things have progressed over time as a school, and also seeing the reaction and the evidence here. So I wonder, is it something, as Mr. Hill had mentioned, would the board be willing to vote on this tonight, or would you want to wait for a special meeting? I was just curious from the other board members as to see what the temperature might be.
I'm good on voting tonight.
Yeah, I'm up for it for, I believe strongly that engagement and camera is gonna be, I mean, that's a good thing. The only thing that I was curious about the tiering, that's a whole nother conversation, I guess, that's based on data or research, that probably is. But I'm feeling strongly that it is gonna help the students for engagement, camera. I'm a newbie, but I leave it to the rest of the seniors here.
Does anybody not feel comfortable voting tonight?
I feel comfortable voting with the caveat that we would probably want to vote that we would approve it with an addition of information about virtual backgrounds and with additional information about, like, how, like, does this impact attendance, and if so, how? Um, just basically the things we've talked to today being agreed to and added.
So the virtual backgrounds, I can understand. You're saying, tell me the second part you wanted included?
That piece about or what kind of thing. Like, I know that's what
Oh,
my
or
students
what?
would be
Yeah,
asking.
okay, yeah.
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 My students would be like, or am I not there? It's kind of like, okay, if I don't do the Quizlet, I'm not there.
Yeah, I understand.
But if I don't have my, if I don't have my camera on for how much, for how many minutes could I have it off? Do I have to have it on the whole time? I mean, I think there's a little more to be fleshed out in terms of what it means to require it, and making sure that the students understand completely what's expected. Are they to have it on all the time, the whole thing, or they're not present for that entire meeting if they have it off for 5 minutes or not?
Yeah. So, Mr. Hill, we could approve it and say just that with the caveat that we will, is that sufficient for tonight?
That's too much to.
Who said, someone said no? Did someone say no?
I heard it too. I was wondering.
Yeah, I heard it.
It was
I
not me.
agree. Yeah, I
That
agree.
could have been me. My dog was trying to
Okay.
get in my lap.
Oh,
That's very.
I was like, sorry. I didn't
Exactly
realize
what
my
I
mic
heard.
was on for that.
Your dog is trying to vote.
Exactly.
Yes, I agree. I think the category or the premise that I was talking about kind of hits on what Dee just mentioned is what are those exceptions and what's the process, communications and disciplinary action that need to be fleshed out, not so much for passing this as a policy, but the next steps to work through executing it, because we certainly wouldn't want to be surprised about things that would pop up. And you can't name every exception, but we could put some language around it that would capture that in a way that would hopefully be able to frame it up.
Mr. Hill, could we pass it today so that it could be implemented by January 1 with, and then you all follow up with us at our January meeting about those two pieces?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I would also like to hear from, even though the principals have stated, I would still like to hear more about, I know the first, what I believe it was 15 days, the cameras had to be on. And then we all noticed that once the cameras went off, the decline came. I understood that, even for my own daughter in that regards. But I would like to hear what they feel would be, I guess, an appropriate or what, if, for example, I'm interested to know what they see, what has worked in the classroom for the or what.
I was gonna say that as well, the three things, the number one, backgrounds, oh no, that actually was the same thing. Well, there's two different things, the counting of attendance and then also the consequences. I think those are three separate caveats. Do you guys agree? Okay.
Dr. V raised his hand.
Yeah, no one that I'm aware of is here to punish students, right? So the plan here is to use positive reinforcement for getting this off the ground. Two, I don't believe anyone here is going to mark a student absent if the camera is off, because camera off and participating is different than, camera off and not participating and being down the street. And so, we have a committee that's working on this. The marching orders have been a positive behavior model to reinforce the expectation of cameras on. So a quick example, back to Mr. Hill's point about this point system, is if it's a test grade at the end of the year and, let's just say in a perfect world, there are 100 days, maybe it's 1.25 points per day that you have your camera on and do these other 4 things, whatever those other 4 things are. So in other words, there's always a protection there. The other thing is, this is recorded. So, the part here is personally, I don't want to reveal every promotion of what is up our sleeve as far as how we are going to work with students. But that is the exception, and we will work with students. I've been at this for almost 30 years. I have pretty good professional judgment when it comes to working one-on-one with kids, and we will exercise that. But I'm not going to promote to 100% of the students what that means, because that's just not how you do it. So we certainly can get you something in writing, can give you the guidelines. I think that's certainly appropriate. And again, this isn't about punishment. This is about encouraging, like you said, students to have their cameras on, explain why they have their cameras on. I only work with seniors. When I go into the senior assembly and I see half the screens off, I say, I would expect that as seniors, you're leaders of this school, there is really not much reason to have your cameras off. And I turn my camera off, and nobody wants me to have my camera off and just go through the whole assembly. And we use reverse psychology on them, and they get the point. And the cameras come on. These kids are great kids. They will rise.
And also, it could be, we could just say, the discretion of the principal and the teacher as far as how the student will be penalized or not be penalized, because there's so many ifs, there's so many situations that could happen. The reason the camera's not on, and so you can't name all those rules. So it kind of put the power back into the teacher and the principal's hand to do that.
Curious, instead of talking about negative consequences or penalizing, is it possible to say, hey, 5% or 1% of your grade or is towards like an assignment, this is a camera grade, something like that, and you get that it is 3 marks or, marks that the student can earn irrespective of other the grade, something like that, rather than, so it's, it's more towards a grade for the student, kind of counting positively rather than saying, I'm going to take out marks, rather than say this much, say 5 points or something like that. You're getting it. And so if you have your camera on all over the time, then you get those 5 points of your grade versus, it's just that's fixed. And at the discussion of the, if a student doesn't have it on, then it's a discussion between the teacher and the student for whatever the personal reasons you're not actually penalizing, but, kind of doing that way. So you have the discretion of giving it or not giving it, depending on the personal situation over there. I don't know if that's something, my 2 cents is if that works.
Mr. Copeland.
Yeah, as we've worked with cameras in different behavior parts at the elementary school for some time, and work through different pieces. And as Ms. Mobley has shared, I'm not sure. But it is something that the discretion is very important, because we're all with technology, internet goes out, different types of things, and nobody is looking to penalize kids. We're here to grow children. And that's what we're all about. And that's what our teachers are. I know through the middle school and through the high school too. My son's a senior, in those areas and working with that. And so that is exciting to see. And that's what we want to do. And it's the discretion, and that's important. We have great teachers, and that's what they want to do, is work with kids. We do have a rubric that a team worked through, and the high school is working through. It sounds like something similar. I know the middle school will do something similar. And that has evolved so that we could be consistent. And it gives children multiple opportunities, because we want to teach them that as you do this routinely over time, you build those points and it happens. But also occasionally we all do something wrong. I mean, that's going to happen. We're going to turn our cameras off, or we're going to have something happen, and it's going to be something. We're going to forget to respond, or we're not going to be engaged some days. Some days I'm going to get distracted by something, and I'm going to make a mistake, and I'm not going to have that perfect score, and that's going to be okay. And we're going to reflect on that and say, next week, I'm going to do better. And that's okay. And that's important. that we learn that and we model that all the way through. And that's the process. And that's with parents, we want to have that process too. And as teachers, we have that. And to say it's okay to not have a great, you didn't do it this week. That's okay. We have next week. And we're going to have this routine assignment next week. It is every week. It's been built in from week 1 in elementary school all the way through. And we're going to have it, the same rubric in our whole groups, in our small groups, in all of our classes. And the teachers communicate those same expectations all the way through all of our grades. And so I'm excited that middle school and high school, will come along with something similar. It will evolve as they get older. The expectations will be a little bit different because they're older and able to handle different pieces of things. But it is something, it will work. And I think and I know, the important pieces is we also really focus on the main thing. While it's a big part, because it's great to see our kids interact, like I said, holding up pieces, the interaction of the learning, but we want to make sure they get to the learning. And that's the important part, is the lessons that the teachers are teaching, and to get back to that and that important critical, that the learning that takes place with and if one student has their camera off, the kids forget about it after a period of time. If the teacher doesn't bring a whole lot of attention to it, they go on about the day. And they go on about it, which is fine, and that happens for whatever reason.
Synthesizing all of this, I'm wondering if we approve this with a caveat that we would like an addition of virtual backgrounds being encouraged. And rather than anything about the attendance and consequences, we instead add just one sentence that says exceptions may be made at teacher's discretion to that requirement for the cameras to be on. Just thinking about conversations as a parent with teachers and things like that, so that when parents read that, they understand that if there is an exception that is needed for their student on a particular day or whatever, they should reach out to the teacher, and the exception can be made at the teacher's discretion. I don't know how people feel about that, but that's my suggestion.
Is there
I don't dislike that.
Is that 75%? I thought I heard 80% or 85% requirement for the camera on.
So what I encourage is for you to make a motion and allow us to move forward and establish some guidelines and share those with you. I mean, of course, go ahead and be specific in policy regarding certain caveats, but allow us to establish those guidelines that work for K-5, work for 6, 8, and 9, 12, and we'll come back to you with those guidelines to get your feedback, and we will also collect data because one of the issues around setting policy is our purpose is to get some strategic direction from you, and you allow us to delve into the specifics, and we share information with you, and we move and continue to improve along the way, because it's very difficult to try to be really specific and be nuanced in this type of policy.
Dr. Martin McCoy, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say I would like to make a motion that we move forward with a policy that would allow for the staff of the North Carolina Cyber Academy to come forward with details regarding the student cameras. And if anyone else wants to add on to that, feel free.
So maybe you could pass a motion to approve the policy as presented with whatever specific caveats you want to add, and that those caveats would be addressed in guidelines and in some additional studies that we bring back to you. Someone could say so moved, and the other one
So,
could say
so
second.
moved. So moved.
I have a second.
This
I'll
is
second.
yeah.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, great. The motion carries.
Oh,
That's a great
rich
conversation.
conversation.
Yeah,
Rich
definitely. I
conversation.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
All right. Next up, we have action items with Dr. Harvey.
So what I'll ask for this presentation is if you have any questions of Dr. Harvey, he'll be ready to answer. But I would like for us to move to elementary, middle, and high school, and ask that our principals be aware of the time, and then after the principals make their presentations, if you have any questions, please ask them. And after the principal makes the presentation, I would ask the board to approve this in a bunch. Approve the district, the elementary, middle, and high school together. So please, may I recognize Mr. Copeland?
All right, good evening again, and I'm just welcome to you all. And those of you who don't know me know I can talk a lot, so I will be very succinct, hopefully. So our goals as an elementary school, we do have several ambitious goals in our school improvement plan, and they focus on several main areas that align with our district goals, and so they focus on student achievement and also growth, and they also align with our WIGs, our wildly important goals as a school. And so the goals are by this coming school year, and we've been working on these for several years, is that we hope to get, our goal is to get to 55% of our third, fourth, and fifth grade students will meet or exceed the grade level proficiency standards in math on the integrated test, and to 68% on the English language arts integrated test, and then to 75% of our fifth grade students on the science integrated test. And so just as a quick summary, for elementary, our third, fourth, and fifth grade students take the reading and math integrated tests. Fifth grade students take the science integrated test, and then our kindergarten, first, and second grade students, they, at the end of the year, they complete, or several times throughout the year, they are assessed in reading on an assessment that's called M-Class, which is a reading specific assessment. And so for our reading students, our goal is to be at 84% proficiency for each of those grade level standards in reading. And then for our, we have an attendance goal that aligns with our state goal, is that to be at or below the state average, which we currently are. So we want to stay there. And we've added this year, with our focus as a school on artificial intelligence and AI tools, as we've started implementing the school AI, is that 80% of our teachers will integrate age-appropriate artificial intelligence tools and practices to enhance instruction. So those are our big goals. And then beyond that and underneath that, we have action items. And inside of those, we have action steps. And I will not read all of those to you. And so that is just a global area of those. But each of those, we can dig into as much detail as you would like. But I will pause there and see how much more detail you all would like for me to go into, or if there's any area you want for me to explore.
Mr. Copeland, I did have a question about,
Yes, ma'am.
you had mentioned the use of AI.
Yes.
Do you see students using that AI directly, or do you see it more of teachers' use of AI with students? Just wanting to know a little bit more about that.
So we've been working with our teachers on their use of AI to support instruction. So that has been one tool. With our students, elementary students are under 13. So their access to directly access AI is not something that we are able to use for many of the popular tools or common tools like Gemini and ChatGPT and some of those. But we have been, the work of the district AI team has facilitated the use of a tool that is called School AI that we have just started working with our teachers on and launching that. And that does have components that will allow our elementary age students to be able to actually directly interact more with learning tools that are that use artificial intelligence. Yes.
Thank you.
It's kind of dual side, but right now it's staff focused.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Just a quick question, Dr. Copeland. Is there any, well, I'm assuming we're not using any sensitive data while the teachers are using this for instruction with the AI, correct? Or is this?
So there is, and so that is part of the work as we work with the district AI team, is really teaching our staff to make sure, that it is not, that there is not student specific information. A lot of what they do with it is helping to develop questions in terms of text complexity type questions, enhancing the work that they are doing. Sometimes it's also fun things with students in terms of engagement or taking activities that they have done in terms of, and making it either more complex or making it more interactive for students in terms, and simplifying the tasks for teachers. And so turning an activity that may have been a matching activity into a multiple choice activity, and using a tool like School AI can do that instantly for you, where it would take 20, 30 minutes for a teacher to do that activity themselves, do that test. But yeah, we do not, the part of the guidelines that have been set up by the district AI team has been, committee has been to really make sure that our staff are aware that we are not uploading student data into any of those models.
Any other questions for Mr. Copeland? Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead and pass it to Principal Fleming.
Hello again. I just want to say there are many things that are in alignment with elementary with regard to our school improvement plan. We are focusing on academic achievement and growth first and foremost, and instructional excellence, and our MTSS and intervention. Some of the things that I wanted to highlight is a focus area for us is, of course, increasing our math proficiency and growth. There are some things I did want to share with the board that we're focused on in that area after reviewing of the plan. With instructional excellence, we're trying to strengthen our Tier 1 students' instruction in the virtual environment. Tier 1 is where we have a concerted effort of looking at the instructional not just the instruction itself, but the student's ability to understand the level of questioning that is being received by our students. So one of the things that we're doing currently with our math department, as well as our ELA and science, is just ensuring that the questioning is very detailed and supportive of that would be on the EOG. And so with that, our WIG, our wildly important goal, is looking at the data trends of our students with that questioning and supporting our tier 1 instruction. Our tier 2 and tier 3 instruction has been solid with our interventionists, and the data has shown. However, we have to address the larger enrollment with our tier 1. And so one of the things that we have done this school year is utilize those strengths of our interventionists who are very strong with the small group and tier 2 and tier 3 instruction. And we're utilizing them to support our bubble students at our core level. And so they have a core class of students that they're supporting and collaborating with our core teachers. So these are some of the things that we're doing specific in math to try to support proficiency or increase proficiency and growth. I also wanted to share, and with our instructional excellence, we're looking closely at the EVAS, closely at where our teachers actually perform well with regard to their subgroups, as well as looking at where they did well with students based on the lower level students versus the higher level students. And so doing that matchup with the students for our teachers to support that growth as well. So instructional excellence is a focus area, and that is one of the things we're doing. Strong standards alignment. I've been working with Dr. Thigpen and Dr. Harvey, and we've been looking at the curriculum and just ensuring that the teachers are following the alignment of the content and ensuring that the pacing is matching that of what appears mostly on the EOG. So instructional excellence is an area, and I'm just giving pieces of it. I know Mr. Hill is looking like I need to hurry. I do want to share that our engagement tools and lesson planning has also ramped up. That is something that we're actually looking at the data thereafter to see how beneficial that is and the sharing of the best practices with the other teachers. With our MTSS and intervention, again, that is a strong area for middle school. We saw the most growth with our students who are receiving interventions. Our students are receiving double dose intervention this school year by ensuring that our interventionists are supporting a core class. And so our goal is, again, just to share those best instructional practices with our teachers and ensure that we are doing all we can to support the students. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade all have new staff. There are new teachers at each grade level from the previous school year. And these teachers have a wealth of experience. So I'm extremely grateful to have them on board. Many have virtual experience coming from Winston-Salem. And then we have one coming from the East who has over 25 years of experience. So our teacher look is a complete change from that of last year, along with other efforts that we're doing. And last but not least, the culture and the climate. As you know, we're implementing the Leader in Me. And with that, the goal is to have some student ownership, letting the students look at what it is they're trying to achieve. We'll start with our student WIGs. Students will be making their goals and setting those goals to ensure that they're reaching the mark, and our teachers are modeling that as well.
Ms. Fleming, would you explain what is a bubble student and what is EVAS? Just very briefly.
Yeah, so when I said bubble student, I was referencing that student who is right on the cusp of being proficient on the end of grade test. So not only are we looking at the end of grade test, we're also looking at other data. We're looking at their check-in data, their iReady data, previous year's data, and we have all of that triangulated together to look to determine where a student actually stands. And with EVOS, which is a growth model by SAS, that growth model gives us information about the likelihood of a student being proficient, or the percentage of that student being proficient on the end of grade test. And it gives us information so that we know basically how to group and how to make sure that we're providing instruction based on the needs of that particular student.
Any questions? Other questions for Ms. Fleming? All right, hearing none, I'll pass it to Dr. Fee.
Great. Good evening, everyone, once again, and welcome to our new board members. So this whole system, these reports that you're looking at come from what's called IndiStar. It's the required school improvement tool that the state uses. We all have been using it for 5 years. So I'm not a huge meeting person. I'm not, always thrilled about being in meetings. But our school improvement team has met 140 times in the last 5 years because we're committed to school improvement. That's averaging 30 a year, 3 a month. The state requires us to meet at least twice. We schedule 4 times a month. My admin team, every single day. I wouldn't say we wake up together, that'd be inappropriate, but we start our meetings together at 7:30 in the morning before the school day even starts, and we meet every single day. Short accounts is what's important. We try to keep short accounts with our staff, with our students, with our parents, try to be as communicative as we possibly can. I'm not going to read you my school improvement plan, but in the last 90 days, we've accomplished or brought to full implementation 4 of our objectives. You see which ones we're working on, which ones we're not. The high school created 5 years ago 2 sets of goals, just like the state would indicate in turnaround. A 3-year goal and a 5-year goal. We are in year 5, so we're super excited to get into this year and reset next year for a new 3- and 5-year plan. I feel like overall we've done pretty well. The high school has come a long way, in my opinion. Of course, that's just my opinion, but in the last 5 years, we've come a long way. I can remember when we would advertise for a position and get 2 applicants, and now we get 30 and 40 and 50. And I think that probably goes for K-8 as well. A lot of that is what the board has done to bring incentives to the school for hiring. Math is an area we want to focus on, obviously. I think Math 1 is our special target. There are a lot of things we've done. We have, and I won't spell them all out because you see them in the presentation, so I won't kind of go over all of them, but it's a high focus. We have goals in biology, English 2, Math 1, Math 3, graduation rate, and the ACT. The ACT is a moving target. 1 year it's 19 points to be proficient. Next year it's 17, and then 21. And so anyway, it is... it's an area that we want to do better on. We want to get those points for our growth. Mr. Hill, I didn't mention it, but he did mention it at the state board meeting. We have the largest CTE charter program in the entire state of North Carolina, and it's 3 years old. There is no competition. When it comes to charter, we compete against LEAs. Our credentials have gone from 11 4 years ago earned to 115 to 400 to a projected almost 900 this year. These are certified credentials. We're doing Python programming that you can take right into the workforce tomorrow. So we are preparing our students not just for college, but to also prepare them for the career of their choice. There's been a lot of talk about our progress, and I think it is accurate. Right now, the high school has a 96% retention rate with their staff. 96% of the parents feel like it's a great place to learn. The state looks at 5-year trends. 5-year trend for our counterpart, which will remain nameless, the other statewide virtual school, they grew 2 points in 5 years. The state for 9-12 grew 8, and our high school grew 12. We are outpacing our counterpart, outpacing the state. And it's not because I'm the principal, it's because we have, without a doubt, the strongest high school staff I have ever worked with. I'd put them up against anyone, charter or regular LEA district. So I just say all that because, the state looks at performance and growth. We are 4 points ahead of the other statewide charter in performance. And for growth, we're within 3 points of the state average. When we look at growth, the high school has 13 metrics. 10 of the 13 either met or exceeded. There were 3 that didn't meet. And those are our high focus areas of math, right? We need to do something about it. But at the same time, I don't want to mislead you. Math 3 grew 37 points in 5 years. I'm not sure how many other schools would indicate that. 37 points in 5 years. It's not where we need to be right now, but we surely aren't where we've been. So we are in a strong position, again, outperforming and outpacing the state on 5-year trends. And I feel confident in the staff, 100% confident in the high school staff. And I'd be making a huge mistake if I didn't thank them for all their hard effort and work. Just like our students rise, I believe our staff rise to whatever we set before them. 2 years ago, we had 200 parent-teacher conferences on a given day. This year, we're averaging 1,000. There's no exaggeration. That's 1,000 in a meeting like this in one day. So our parents, we thank them for their partnership and support as well. So overall, I think we're heading in the right direction. And I think we're doing some good things, but certainly we have some things we want to continue to focus on, and we will target those areas and be purposeful in our planning and what we're going to do with those areas.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions on the high school data and reporting?
Curious for the math one, I've heard about the performance of the students. So is this something like I've seen applications that use gamification to teach kids on some concepts? So is that something that was ever thought of?
It is thought of, and the district, obviously with your permission, has been more than generous with the resources they provide us. And when our staff come to us and say, this is something we want to seek out, we're looking at a new math resource even now that will be discussed tomorrow morning in our admin meeting. We have had all the support from the district that we've asked for and the funding from that support. And obviously you prove that. And, but yes, we look at all those opportunities. Let's just be super clear here. If there's one area in the entire state of North Carolina that nobody has the answer to right now, it's Math 1. I mean, 7 out of 10 in the state of North Carolina do not pass the Math 1 end of course test. So this isn't an NCCA only issue. This is a statewide, really huge issue. But with all that being said, we don't make excuses. We're looking for solutions. We have done all kinds of adjustments in our Math 1. We are expecting, a 10 to 12 point gain this year alone in Math 1. I would be surprised if we do not get that. But again, yes, we are looking into those things, and our CTE program especially complements Math 1 in a lot of areas with the move into AI and cybersecurity and using math concepts across the curriculum. I have my own assistant principals teaching Math 1, so if that's not commitment to turning Math 1 around, nothing.
Yeah. I have a middle schooler who's also struggling with Math 1, so I'm perfect Math 1 crisis everywhere. So
it's a crisis in the state.
Yes, I agree. So I was just curious, like I've seen some games where like when they are elementary or preschoolers, teach some concepts using some games and things like that. So I don't know if that's something with AI and that is something that can build into the curriculum. Or yeah, I'm sure you just
Yeah, in some of those, we already have that access and we're already implementing it. So, but that's a great point in continued looking into other things that connect, right? It's about that. It's about connecting kids to the curriculum. It's not this siloed, bunch of information. We want to connect it to real life so they understand why they have to learn that. Because I
Yeah.
did when I was in school.
Yeah, it's not just about at the end of the grade itself, it's just the concepts, because as they grow to the high school, it's building on those concepts, right?
Right.
So, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on school improvement plans? Okay, thank you all. Thank you, principals. And I'll go ahead and move it to the finance committee, which has my name on it because Dee had to leave. So I'll pass it to you, Dr. Mullins.
So, Madam President, I would ask the board to approve the district school improvement plan, the elementary,
Yes.
middle, and high school improvement plan before you move to the next topic.
You did ask that, and I will ask it too. So may I have a motion to approve district school improvement plan, elementary, middle, and high school improvement plans?
Make a motion to approve the district school plan, elementary, middle school, and high school improvement plan.
Thank you. Maybe a second?
I'd like to second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, great. Plans are approved. Now I'll pass it to me, and then I'll pass it to Dr. Mullins.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Marks. The board should have a 4-page budget report, finance budget report, and I'm just going to go through the 4 pages. On the first page, you have our revenues, the state revenues of just over $18 million. And then the local revenues is just over 6 million. And you'll see an uptick in the month to date activity, the second column after current budget. You'll see the MTD activity of almost $300,000 last month. That is the local revenue generated from the various LEAs that we have students coming from. And yet at the last board meeting, I mentioned that we had only collected about $100,000. So you can see it's increased significantly from 100,000 to almost 300,000 in a month. And then our federal revenue is 1.9 million. That has remained unchanged. We will have some additional Title I School Improvement 105 funds. The next time the board meets, we should see that in this budget. And so our total revenues, projected revenues is 26.3 million, or just over 26.3 million. And then the expenses we have from the administrative services all the way down to testing and federal programs, a projected expense of 25.9 million. So when you look at the on the first page, a revenue stream of 26.3 million, second page expenses of 25.9 million, you'll see a net surplus of just over $458,000. And also in the on the second page, under percent remaining, we have of our total expenses, we have projected expenses. We have spent about 30% so far toward our projected expenses. So we still have 70% of our funding available. And that's right in line because this budget represents the first 4 months of the school year. So we're about 33% of the way done, and we have spent about 30% of the money. So, we would be alarmed if we were 33% of the way done and we'd spent 60% of the funding. So we're right in line where we need to be from a revenue standpoint and an expense standpoint. Then the third page is the cash reconciliation report, and you can see on October 1st of this year, we had in the bank in our checking just over 1.8 million. And just for the new board members, it's Ameriprise 0133. That is our funding that we have in CDs and treasuries. So those funds are protected in case a bank was to shut down or whatever it may happen. We have those funds protected in treasuries and CDs, and we have we started October with almost 6.6 million in those CDs and treasuries. Over the course of October, we increased our cash by $768,788.03. We increased that in our checking. Our treasuries and CDs gained us just over $20,702.40. So we had an additional $789,490 the increase and 43 cents. So as we started 10/1/2025, we had just over 8.4 million between our checking account and our Ameriprise accounts. Over the course of October, we increased almost $790,000. Those are drawdowns from the federal and state, and in addition to the CDs and treasuries. And so we ended October with just under 9.3 million in the bank, 2.6 in our checking, and 6.6 in our treasury and CDs in our portfolio. So right now, as a school, we have 9.2 million, almost 9.3 million available for funding. And then if you look at the budget, the last page is the anticipated fund balance, which we always look at. We're anticipating right now of having a net surplus in this budget of 458,000. We began the school year on 7/1/2025 with 9.7 million in the bank. So we have an anticipated fund balance at the end of this school year of 10.1 million. Now, not 10.1 will probably be reduced somewhat because if we adjust salaries, we haven't adjusted salaries yet because we're waiting to see what the state's going to do with state public school salaries. But that'll be a conversation a little bit later for the board as well. And as Mr. Hill mentioned about the increase in a little bit of an increase in our marketing and promotions, and with an increase of enrollment coming up in January in the spring, there was probably going to be the need to hire a few additional staff members depending upon the program area. So that 10.1 million will be reduced some, but not significant. But so financially, we're in a good place to be able to support our increased enrollment in the spring and do the marketing that we're asking ENV to help us with. And then if there's anything else that principals would need to help with the academic side of things as well, we've got the funding to be able to help them. I just want to see if you have any questions. Thank you, Dr. Marks.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mullins. Okay, next up we have the consent agenda. Mr. Hill, did you want to note the third item?
Yes, ma'am. You'll note an acknowledgement of Mr. Frank Kinney's resignation from the board. Our attorney has asked in the past when a board member resigns that we include it as a part of our agenda to ensure it's documented in the minutes. I received, along with Dr. Marks, his resignation last week. So I wanted to ensure that you are aware that that is an item under the consent agenda.
Thank you. All right, if no one has any changes to last month's minutes or questions on the operations report, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second?
Sorry. Audrey seconds, okay.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great. Consent agenda passes. All right, I think that's all we have for today. Packed meeting. Yes. Okay. Okay, can I just take 2 minutes? I'm sorry, I know it's bad to do it. Can we just have like 2 minutes for the board members just to introduce themselves and like say, are you a parent, where you're from? Because I just think it's weird we didn't do that. So would that be okay real quick? I'll go ahead and start with you, Ms. McDonald. I see you down there at the bottom.
Yes, absolutely. Glad to be here. Let's see. I am located in Concord, North Carolina. I don't know what all you want to know, but I've
Right.
worked in the private sector for 30 plus years, and I'm
Great.
still, is that okay?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes there's parents, sometimes there's people from industry, education.
Yeah, private sector, but I work a lot with now in my consulting firm, and also I work full time in a management consulting firm with government sector, federal and state.
Awesome. Well,
Mhm.
very good to have you. Thank you. How
Glad
about,
to be here.
yeah, how about you, Miss Thomas?
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. I know I spoke some things maybe for the first meeting, but this is very educational when I saw the school board program last week. My background is cybersecurity, so maybe seeing some questions from that. I've been in the technology industry for over 20 plus years. I'm an NACD certified board director, as well as have an MBA. My background. Currently, I'm at Lenovo as the head of supply chain security. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Wonderful, thanks. And Miss Mobley.
Hi, I'm Miss Mobley. Glad to be here. I live in Louisville, North Carolina, but it's just right up the road from Winston-Salem. I owned and operated a preschool for like over 25 years. And then I do have my license in school counseling and counseling. So I'm still working. I work at Reagan High School, and we're A+ high school
Awesome.
in Youngstown, North Carolina.
Congratulations and thank you. Okay, that helps. Just gotta place everybody in
And
there.
just for reference, I'm in Apex, North Carolina. So
Okay, got it.
close to Durham, so where the offices. So yeah.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Okay, yeah, we have had in-person board retreats in the past, so hopefully we'll get to meet each other in person eventually.
Is it possible for the existing board members to introduce for us newbies?
Of course, yes, sorry, that's really smart.
You all know Dr. Hill, had conversations with him, so.
Yes. So yes,
Personal, other information, anything also would help, so yes.
Okay. All right. I'm Julie Marks. I'm in actually Chapel Hill, and as I mentioned earlier, I lead an education policy research group, primarily looking at federal and state education reform grants. So I've been on the board for 3 years now, I think, starting with the Academic Excellence Committee and now as the president, and it's a great group of folks. So I'll go ahead and pass it to you, Dr. Martin McCoy.
Yes, and welcome to everyone. I'm Audrey Martin McCoy. Julie, I think we've been on the board now going on 5 years.
Stop it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
time is really getting by.
That's
Julie and I, we work in very similar industries in education, evaluation, research, technical assistance in that area, and we have had some history in working together on various projects. I'm in Weaverville, North Carolina, which is just north of Asheville, and just so happy that you all have joined us on this journey. We look forward to continuing to work with you. And I think
those are actually all the board members that
all
are
the board they're still here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to learn about other members over here as well, so.
Sure, yeah. Dr. Mullins, why don't you introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, I am Bo Mullins. I'm Chief of Staff, and this is my 7th year with Cyber. And I have been a high school teacher, assistant principal, director, assistant superintendent, and get to work with this great group of folks. So 7 years in, and it's a great place. I was going to say to Dr. Martin McCoy and Dr. Morris, y'all look younger now than when you first started. How about that?
Thank you for that compliment.
We're not getting older; we're just getting better. So,
that's right. It's like fine wine.
And welcome our new board members. But it's a really great place.
Thank you. And how about you, Dr. Harvey?
Well, good evening, everyone. My background is in education administration. I've been a teacher, assistant principal, area superintendent. I've also worked for North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. This is about 2 months in for me for North Carolina Cyber Academy, and so I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to focus on students, and I look forward to working with you for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much. Ms. Daniels, I thought you had a profile picture up. You're sitting so still. And I just saw you blink. So why don't you go ahead? I'll let you go next.
Good evening. I believe I've met each of you, but my name is Tiny Daniels. I'm going into my 6th year here at North Carolina Cyber. I started in the classroom. I've been with 2nd and 3rd grade. But then I've been working here, like I said, at North Carolina Cyber since 2020 as Mr. Hill Special Assistant and our projects coordinator.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Thigpen, I think you're last.
Good evening, and it's good to meet you. My name is Ben Thigpen. I worked in Eastern North Carolina in Duplin County for 30 years, taught, coached, was principal, ended up retiring as a superintendent in Jones County. And this is my 2nd year working with the North Carolina Cyber Academy, and I have learned more in 2 years than I've in a lot of years in brick and mortar. It's really been nice and great people to work with, and I look forward to working with all of you all.
Great. Well, Attorney Dover, yeah, do you want to just say hello too?
Yeah. Hi, I'm attorney Amber Dover, and I'm with the Banks Law Firm, and we serve as counsel for the board. My colleague, Attorney Martin, she's not here today, but typically she will be sitting in for the board.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you for indulging me in another 4 minutes, but I'm really excited to have all you be a part of this fine group. So with that said, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.